Truth seekers, it is Wednesday and hump day for most people who work a 5-day work week and reptilian talk tonight. We're going to talk about the reptilian. Actually, we'll go into a couple of things that's in the Bible and we'll go right into that tonight, where there are some scriptures and maybe there's some connection between some of these things. Now, it's up to you to listen and observe and then also investigate some of the stuff yourself. But we're just going to connect some of the dots because some stuff don't explicitly say this is a shapeshifter. But when you go through modern history and ancient stuff, you can kind of connect the dots a little bit. And therefore, that's what we would do. Because here, what if I told you that the serpent in the Garden Eden, we talk about that a lot here, the dragon of Revelation and the reptilian shapeshifters is modern conspiracy theories, right? We can say are all echoes of the same ancient archetypes. And that's really where this goes, because a story that has been whispered across 4,000 years of human history. But tonight, we're going to connect some dots that most people don't even know exist. And so this will be really good for us to follow along, because we're going to go from the Babylon chaos dragons to biblical Leviathan, right? If you look at that up from the Pharisees, crocodile crowns to reptilian rulers of today's conspiracy culture. And so it's worth noting that all of this stuff comes from ancient information. We don't have to go all the way over to Africa when David Icke talked to Credo Mutwa, whatever his name was, not whatever his name, but that was his name. Great respect for the shaman, Zulu shaman. And of course, by the end, you won't see the serpent symbolism the same way. That's my hope. So I'm going to make you a big promise tonight. And one of those is that we're going to see what I call the full 4,000-year serpent reptilian timeline. We're going to go through some of that, most that I can, from ancient myth all the way over to modern day theories. Okay, that's number one. Number two, we're going to understand some of the biblical connections that most people miss when we're talking about these reptilians. And why do we even have that conversation? We're also going to discover some of the hidden roles that serpents have had in what I call ancient Near Eastern religion, and why the biblical reinterpretation and how we can reinterpret them. Okay, so that you can understand that. And then we'll talk about how to spot the symbolic fingerprints, because it's all over the place, as you know that, from the Vatican, from Snake Hall to all over the place. There's there. And this archetype is in politics, it's in media, it's in pop culture, it's everywhere. And then, of course, we'll have a, hopefully by the end, you'll have a mental framework. And so if you're ready for that, we're going to get right down into it. Over here, I have my stack of reptilian books, okay? So that you know that what I'm talking about is the compilation of not even close to what's in here. This is just things. And I'll go through each one of these and hold them up for you in a minute in case if something interests you. Then you can get to Amazon and get your copy of one of these books and everything else to talk about it. Because one of the most profound conversation is reptilian stuff, right? In fact, there was a time, and still is, that we was dedicating our whole journey to find one, to meet one, not hunt down, but to meet a reptilian. And we even had a reptilian hotline for those reptilians want to call in and tell us who they are and what they are. And some people could be and don't even know it. So this is how deep the rabbit hole goes. Let me change that. This is how deep the reptilian hole goes. So that's what we're going to do. And so I'm going to lighten this thing up for you. And we're not going to have church. We're just going to talk about some connections. And once again, this is a community conversation. So your chats and everything else as y'all talk. And if something sticks out, I'll put it on the board if I can catch it, because it rolls pretty fast. But feel free to super chat, okay? Because this is what we're going to start doing in the future. And those super chats will be prioritized as up on the screen. And if you want something known, just super chat it anyway or any value you want. And then those are going to be the most recognized stuff moving forward as we begin to build. All right. So having said that, we're going to get into one in particular, the serpent. We'll start in the book of Genesis. I think that's a great place to start. Why not, right? And I'll go over a couple of things, and then I'll talk about a little symbolism of it. And then I'll go into what I would consider the reptilian connection to whatever we talk about in Genesis or any other as we go down the path tonight. So if you're down for the conversation, let me know in the chat if you're down for this conversation, and we can go there, and you're prepared to go there, and we just have a, like I said, just our conversation about it. Let me know in the chat. Let me know if you're down with the conversation, and I will continue. First of all, the 4 books that are in sequential order is the Reptilian Bible. This is by Dario Thomas. So this is a great book. Really, it is, all of them. So he has 4 that he has written. This is the Reptilian Bible, which is this red one here, then Reptilian Bible 2. And this is a vast array of information. So the first one is Reptilian. All right, I see some people say you're down for it. So this one is Demonology of the Serpent and the Illuminati. So this is really good. Reptilian Bible of the book 1. And then book 2 is Second Testament of Reptilia and the Demonology of Serpent Race. So that's going to be book 2. And then book 3 is this one. It is the Third Testament of Reptilia, Matrix, the Snake, and How the Lizard Operates. And so this is, like I said, it's the Reptilian Bible is the book. And then the 4th is Revelation of the Reptile. So it's the Fourth Testament of Reptilia, Lizard Links, the Dragon Deception, and the Way of Human Abductions, and the Ultimate Truth of the Matrix. And so this is a great series of books. And like I say, you can go to Amazon and get it. And pretty much this one here is the Secret History of Reptilians. This was a real good one, to be exact. And this was by Scott Allen Roberts. This will give you a lot of good information of the reptilian stuff, I should say. This one is pretty good. It's the Reptilian Agenda, Earth's Darkest Secrets Decoded. I will be a little cautious with this, a little quick book, but it does go through some dark reptilian secrets, if that's going to take you there like it did me. One of the best is this one, Flying Serpents and Dragons. You got to get this one. If that's a great place to start. It's by R.A. Boulay, and it's revised, but this is the story of mankind's reptilian past. That one is going to take you on a journey. This one was one of the first, not the first, but after a few, I would tell you is the one that you want to make sure that you go. And pretty much this one here is really good. This is the Nephilim new edition. This is the Untold Secrets of the Giants, Fallen Angels, and the Ancient Mysteries. This ties into the reptilian stuff too, because we already know that. And this one is my favorite. It's short, to the point, gets you right there. This one is the Reptilian Alien Origins of the Human Species. So between that one and this one ties it into who we are, the human species, and how those reptilians are or have been. This one, as we know, I'm a Jordan Maxwell fan. I'm a David Icke fan too, but this one is by Jordan Maxwell. He actually has a book about reptilians, and you can get this on Amazon. And so I'll suggest that if you're going to take you on your reptilian, and he says the reptilians are there among us as well, and it's the intimate connection between human civilizations and the reptilian while posing thought-provoking questions. So this is by Jordan Maxwell. Now, this one is not going to be easy for you to find. This is 1,600 pages. The deepest reptilian things you're going to find on the planet Earth, okay? This whole series is probably over 100 some bucks if you're going to find it. And it's volume 1, 2, 3, and this one is no joke. I'm just letting you know. And you're talking 1,600 pages when it comes down to reptilian information and talk. So now you know that when I talk about this stuff, hang on, let me get my phone. So now you know when I talk about this stuff, we're not just going anywhere with this. We've actually, now a lot of stuff I'm still in the process of reading, and that's where it is. But just letting you know, there's a lot of stuff out there on reptilians where people are just sitting here going, well, whatever. All right, so let's get into Genesis. There is a verse, as you know, and it's Genesis, I think 3:1 in the King chapter 1. Genesis chapter 3, verse 1 is the King James volume is what we're talking about. But it talks about the serpent was more subtle than any beast on the field which the Lord God had made. All right. Now, we're not going to church. I'm just telling you that the serpent is only mentioned a couple of times in the Bible, but there's a lot of other stuff through ancient history that connects the possibilities of things. So once again, the scripture reads, now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which the Lord God had made. All right. So there's a lot of symbolism there, but I'm just going to give you a quick symbolism, and then we'll do a little reptilian connections that I have got all written out for you. The serpent tempts, as we already know the story, Eve leading to the fall. In later Christian interpretations, as we probably all grew up on, Revelations 12:9 talks about the serpent is linked to Satan. All right, so if that's the case, serpent is linked to Satan, and then we want to go all the way over to the Vatican, and you want to go to Snake Hall, you want to go to all of the implications. Now, there's people who has a different notion when it comes to the serpent. We may talk about some of the symbols later, the medical symbol itself, which, all right, it's got every snake written all over it, right? It's two of them. And of course, it's supposed to be the mark of the wisdom and knowledge or whatever it is. And of course, we have other names for it, when it gets down to who we are. However, if any of us right now was out and about and we got hit in the head with a brick and there was a McDonald's emblem and there was a Burger King emblem and there was a Nike emblem, there was a two-headed snake emblem over there, that's where you're going to run, because at that point, somehow that's where you're going to get your wisdom of saving your life, right? Why is that? Ancient symbolism. Why do we tie it into the snake? Some of you, or the serpent. So some of you can get into this conversation and you can kind of do that. And so it's something I think is very good once you go down that route. Now, the reptilian connection, though, is a humanoid serpent hybrid, which is not described. It's not described in the Bible, but the idea of this highly intelligent, deceptive, non-human entity echoes modern reptilian tropes all over the place. It all had. So when most people think Eve was deceived by the serpent, then we would assume it's the snake. Now, if you start thinking about reptilian hybrids or the whole situation, then we go there. We already talked about it yesterday about in our own Forbidden Knowledge, which was kind of a redo of what we did last Thursday. We talked about the Garden of Eden, man in there, and how God put them out and the fear of all of this. And okay, so now obviously the serpent, so maybe something came from the outside in and said, let's just deceive Eve or whatever. So again, I'm not a church scholar. I'm not going to go here and go through information of saying we're talking about church. We're just talking about conversational things in here in the Bibles that talks a little bit or give us some kind of a connection to the possibility of the reptilian agenda or theory. Now, not the reptilian agenda, because that's a whole nother conversation. That's a whole nother conversation once you get down that road. All right, so let's talk about the seraphim and the fiery serpent imagery. This also has come up. This is in the Isaiah, right? If you kind of look that up, 6:2 describes the seraphim in the Hebrew, burning ones, right? Which is a term a term that's related to the seraph, and the meaning, the fiery serpent. Now, we can go all the way back to Ezekiel. We can go all the way back to a lot of things that have described the firing serpent, the chariots, the what's the bird, the phoenix, and on all of these things. So there's a lot of connotation out there when it comes down to the firing serpent or what's connected is to the Bible. And we've probably been around this thing long enough to know that the names and how our ancient ancestors saw things was maybe a little different than the interpretations that we have today. But most symbolism went all the way back to animals. It went back to some type of creature where it was connected metaphorically, right? And so we can assume that what were they talking about? Because if you go to verse Numbers, this is another one, verse, I think chapter 12, verse 6, speaks of fiery serpents sent as judgment. And where is that connotation? So let me give you the serpent imagery connection to this, because here it can represent divine power. If you start thinking about it, it's the serpent or the fiery serpent for judgment. It was divine power. Now, where would our human civilization begin to look at the gods coming from the skies, also judging us, whether they was giving out what, I forget what they call it, we giving the gods whatever, the word I'm looking for, sacrifices. That's the word. And so we have to then make that determination of what's going on from there. Dr. Strange says, let me put it on the screen here. He goes, I believe that the serpent is the symbol of wisdom, and organized church has that word to the symbol as evil. I got you. So, I mean, again, there's a lot of things that we are told are the evil. And that is something that, once you start going down this knowledge search, you may see some of the stuff. And Jordan talks about it. I brought it up many times, that certain things that they have us saying is negative, stay away from, is also turning around to be knowledge that they may not want us to get to. Because if you got the book of Sacred Secrets, it goes into the Kundalini, it goes in all these things. And we're talking about the spine. And even when Queen Elizabeth, left this world, they did a whole serpent DNA strange thing at her funeral, if you all remember that. So it's kind of weird when we look at that. But once again, the symbolism in this one, in the serpent and firing imagery, goes a little something like this. Serpent imagery here can represent divine power. We just said that. Or judgment. It's not just evil. Dr. Strange just said this, right? Now, in esoteric readings, so this is where we're going to, go down in here, such beings are sometimes imagined as otherworldly and possibly hybrid in forms. Remember how we get to the Nephilims, right? Or the giants and all of this, or in a couple of these books, it goes right into it, right? And it's one of the very reasons where these two books, I think they're is it about the same author? No. But why one went from one to the other that I bought, because it goes down the pipeline of reptilians into there. But this particular book unlocks the ancient secrets of Nephilim giants shrouded in mystery. So we already know that there are some relations between those giants and everything else when you start looking up this in the Bible. So again, do your homework, look at some of this stuff, but understand that at some reasons, then there's a whole different ball game that we may need to look in stuff. So let's go into Leviathan. All right. Now, Leviathan versus a verse that it had was, I have it. In that day, the Lord shall punish Leviathan and piercing serpent, even Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. Isaiah 27:1. Now, once again, the Bible is talking about the serpent. Now, whether it's good, bad, evil, or whatever, the existence of this particular character exists somehow in our ancient history. Now, again, this is totally separate from us going to the conspiracy side of shapeshifters, the royal bloodlines, all of these other people, stuff that we see out there. The lady was on a plane that you saw in the intro of the video, that joker over there is not real. That is probably deeper down in the conversation, right? That we will go when we start connecting it to modern day streets, right? But before that, how do we build the foundation that the possibility of this could be worth looking into? Because somehow the book talks about it or makes connotations to it. And again, David Icke talked to, is it Credo Mushwa, the shaman from the Zulus, and he went deeply into it. If you have not saw that video and stuff, look it up. You can go to eBay and get you a copy of it, DVD or whatever. And it's 6, 7, 8 hours, and it's going to be some deepest stuff that you want to hear. And it's eye-opening. And he's not barring none, telling us that there is some history and connection to who and what we are when it comes down to, now, I've said it before, we have a reptilian brain. David Icke says it, or Jordan Maxwell talks about it, or the scientists all says every one of us have a reptilian brain. Now, was they making this up just to be saying, oh, yeah, we're just going to call it something? Because it could have been a monkey. Could be a monkey brain. Could it be gerbil brain? Well, why reptilian brain? Where did that come from? And so there's been a lot of stuff that you can look up that talks about this. Now, once again, when we start talking about the Leviathan symbolism in it, there's even a movie out there called Leviathan. I don't think it connects to it, but it's a cosmic sea monster. Yeah, okay, it was. There was a movie called Leviathan that was a sea monster, if you remember, if you ever seen that show or the movie. Now, this in here, when you talk about the symbolism, is the Leviathan is the cosmic sea monster or dragon-like entity, a primordial chaos creature opposing divine order. It was, again, the movie depicted it a little different when it came down to the Leviathan, but scripturally, it's all the same. And so it makes you, again, we like to kind of do thought-provoking thoughts here or questions. And like I say, this is far from tonight me trying to give you the shapeshifter theory, because now this is the foundational points of curiosity. What I'm talking about tonight takes your mind into a point to go, all right, or you can combat every part of it and give your synopsis of what it is, and we can go there, because again, the reptilian connection from the Leviathan side of things, it's a mystic, it's ancient, it's dangerous. The way they put it out there, Leviathan fits the archetype of reptilian overlord figures in mystic storytelling. So it's all about the archetypes, and that's something we're going to go over probably tomorrow as we get into our symbolism. But once again, these archetypes of the control, the mechanism of everything else, and then once again, they was cast into the earth. If we start going down that scripturally, which we want, but we'll tie that into you as well. Now, let's take us over to China. The reptilian side of China has always been depicted as dragons, the great dragons. And when you want to go all the way to Louisiana, the reptilian stuff then moves into vampirism, right? At some point, there's a connection there because of the bloodthirst in those particular scenarios, even though I could believe that there are vampires walking around here, right? However, these myths have changed over the years. But if we go back to the great dragon, there's a verse that taught in Revelations 12:9, it says, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. Now that takes me to the question between the two. Is the devil Satan and Satan the devil? Because in some of these cases now, you begin to see one of these people was supposed to be the good guy. And maybe it could have been Satan or whatever, right? I'm just saying that you start reading these stories. So now, are we dealing with two entities, or are we dealing with one of the same? Because some people see it one of the same. But either way, in verse Revelation says, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil, which in name, and Satan. So that could mean, or they're one of the same. However, which deceived the whole world. So that took it into a whole nother thing. And as he's saying here that, Satan is Enlil, and Enlil is Yahweh. All right. So you'll start finding out some of that information. Yeah, I think my girlfriend is a certain type of vampire. All right. And do we look at it from that perspective? And so, like I say, tonight is a great thought conversation, because from all of these books, there is a lot of connection between the reptilian agenda, which I think is a whole different thing when it comes down to what's happening today and who's ruling, who's behind the scenes and everything else. And then one tends to say, okay, this is all in our mind. Our mind is playing all of these characters. These are things that I'm studying today, what I said in doing true stillness, and who are the characters? What is the mind doing to us? And like I said, your mind, your eyes are useless when your mind is blind. So these characters, where did they come from? What is the storyline? Who wrote the storylines of these to put those things into the imagery that we have? So we go into the symbolism of the great dragon in Revelations. We're talking about where here's Satan explicitly identified as both the serpent and the dragon. So in that scripture, like I said, instead of them becoming two different people, it is saying there are one. So when we hear the name that the devil, or we hear the name Satan, it's all in one. So when people are saying there are satanic worshipers or they're worshiping Satan, those are not the same thing. The satanic worshiper, from what I'm looking at, and correct me, is not the same thing as Satan. And I'm not saying they both good or bad. Well, we know what it is, but you get what I'm saying. There's a difference in the two of these things when it comes down to this. Also, they're saying that merging the reptile imagery, which is the ideal of deceptive and ruling power. So now you go all the way back to the deception of Eve. You go back to it was a serpent. Now we go back to identify both the serpent and the dragon as the one of the same, but yet it is a serpent, a reptilian species, or whatever you want to take the assumption of. Now, there is a connection, though. So let's kind of put these connections, because the blended intelligence, the cunning, and a dragon-like form aligns with the reptilian ruler archetype. So these are all archetypes that we hear, we understand that exist, and it's just playing right into the storyline. And one of the things that I will tell you is that if you do not want to be recognized, one of the greatest things to make sure you don't exist, and we know the devil was one of the greatest things, is that he didn't exist, was the way this was going. Now, when you go into ufology world, so I'm going to take a sidebar for you right now. I'm going to move over here and away from over here. This is ufology. This is our conversation biblically. Now, when I put on this hat over here, reptilians are everywhere. Reptilian species is everywhere. They're guiding, they're behind the scenes, they are underground, they're doing hybrids, they're in a different dimension, they're in different vibrations. When you still go all the way out to the Monroe Institute, this is how they discovered the reptilians anyway, when the CIA was doing out-of-body experience. When they start tapping into that, that's how they realized the reptilian was there in that dimension, watching, leading, guiding, influencing. If you go over to the Montauk story, there was supposedly one of the military persons said when they opened the door, there was a reptilian overlord, with the whatever he was wearing. They closed the door. He was there. You go to a lot of induction stories, hybrid stories, people that have stepped out of the body. They all have seen and heard this particular thing. You go back into reptilian shapeshifters that we talk about today in society. The story is real, or they get as real as they can get. But when we get back over here to the biblical side, it becomes mystical. It becomes, a little story driven, a lore, you know what I'm saying, and all of that. But on this other side, we would do that. So we'll come back to the other side in a moment, and we're going to do that. Now, this other word is, I have no way of pronouncing it. So what I'm going to try to do is put it on the screen. Yeah, I'm going to put it on the screen. Let me see if I can. And all you're going to know is I'm talking about that word. And let's do that. And then you will know that I'm talking about this word. And then we'll break it down. We'll do a little syllables on it. And so I'm going to add the banner and show it. Okay, so this word right here that's on the screen right now, it's in Daniel 4 transformation. So verse in Daniel 4:33 describes Nebuchadnezzar, maybe I said that right, madness. It says his hair grew like eagle's feathers and his nails like bird claws. Now, I'm already, when I read that, start thinking about Quetzalcoatl or whatever, in the Mexican flying serpent, which was a flying serpent. But if you go look at a lot of those images and symbolism, they just kind of describing that a little bit. So when you start looking at the symbolism, why not reptilian, but in the Mexican culture or Mayans or whatever, they talked about Quetzalcoatl, and it was the flying serpent, which kind of works in this thing. But it's a king that's transferred into a beast is what it was, and also into a beast-like state, and then also symbolic fall for human dignity to be still the rule. And you got to remember, and some exoteric readings extend this to ancient, and once again, Jordan Maxwell talked about it, non-human rulers. So by now, we should be at the point where the world is strange. Let me just slow down for a minute. The world is strange, man. And it's worth noting that strange is a possibility. It shouldn't be alarming anymore. It shouldn't take you by surprise. It shouldn't say, oh no, that just can't be happening. By now, we should be at a point where now we like, really? And it's, why did that happen now, right? You know, we talk about that because the world is strange, people. And I'm just saying that out of whole heart now. I'm saying I've been doing this long enough that there's a lot of strange stuff that's happening. And when we talk about what we see in the mainstream media, you know, the symbolism of stuff, and then all the way back to ancient history, we're talking about pyramids, alien abductions. We're talking about out-of-body experiences. We're talking about reincarnation. We're talking, you know, cosmic downloads, you know, astral projections, you know, psychic powers. The list goes on and on and on. The world is strange. And we should by now not ridicule anybody who has strange things going on. We just should not. We should give them the benefit of the doubt. I ain't say, you know, walk in their shoes, but you can put them on. You can put their shoes on, and then you can decide what you want to do. But it is worth noting to listen to everything these days, you know, and no longer, you know, want to sit there and as I play my little clips, y'all know I love my little expression clips. We got to no longer be like, you know,
that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Because that's not there anymore. We got to really realize that the world is strange, and it's worth us exploring this stuff and continue down. Yeah, Bigfoot, Loch Ness monsters, you know, vampires, werewolves. The world is strange. That's all I'm saying. I'm just in the world now saying, okay, what's next? And yes, Denzel saying it's not what we thought. Yeah, we should be at that point, man. And I'm saying this out of sincerity. We should now be at the point where, man, something's not right or not what we think, right? Like he just said. And once we accept that as truth, now I didn't say the ordeals are truth, but once we accept that the world is strange, then your receiving of strange information becomes a little easier to swallow. And like I said, you don't use it as bedrock truth until truth is the truth, but at least it will bring down the tension when you hear strange stuff. So let me give you a little reptilian symbolic things that's linking to reptilian motifs. Number one, we talk about the serpent equals deception, hidden knowledge, Genesis, Revelation. So let's pause right there. Not pause right there, but let's home in right there. If the serpent in ancient motifs meant deception, not deception, but was knowledge, hidden knowledge, and then on one hand is deception, why is that? Why is it in one fashion people are accessing the serpent knowledge? I have a book in there. I should have brought it in here. It's Be Wise as a Serpent. This thing is about this big and hundreds of pages, but it teaches you the whole motif of that. But yet all ancient cultures, the ones that are in power, are using the motif of that to control. While they have all of us, and I'm using us as a family community in most cases, thinking, don't go look at that power because it's evil, it's not there, but yet they are consuming the energy of this, and in some cases, or doing something. And I'm not saying that, and I've always said it's time for us now to see how we can gain that knowledge and use it for good, because it's ancient knowledge. It's for everyone. Now, I didn't say itemized stuff like the Baphomet and things that begin to be itemized and structured for whatever use it is. But we're talking about all the way back to the bedrock of time, or human creation, or human civilizations. It's just a thought. It's just a thought for us to think those things through, to ask ourselves, could there be some truth in this? Now, once again, this is deception of it. And George Maxwell talked about it. And there are some places that say that, the fallen angel, was totally different from the knowledge base. So I'm just using the information to ask the question. And, we can kind of look at it from that part. Now, dragons and serpent imagery, cosmic evil or chaos, the Leviathan revelation. There we go. Now the dragons take that. In fact, like I said, this particular book is going to be one of the best reads you should get on Amazon. It is Flying Serpents and Dragons. And there's a connection to this, the story of mankind. Now it says the worldwide legends refers to giant flying lizards and dragons which came to this planet and founded the ancient civilization of Mesopotamia, Egypt, India, China. So those three things right there, 4 places right there, is the subject of all of our conversations when it comes to ancient mythology or ancient wisdom. And this is what they're talking about. And it says, who were these reptilian creatures? This book right here provides the answers to many of the riddles, one in which is, what was the real reason for man's creation? And we talked about that yesterday on Forbidden Knowledge. And we talked about that Thursday here where George Maxwell said, hey, wait a minute, man was already here. Something took us and put us in the Garden of Eden and placed us there and changed us there, used some type of technology to inherently alter the DNA. And it goes all the way back to what I said when people ask me the number one question, what do they look like? And I say, we look like them. And if that's the case, it makes perfectly sense why you don't see them, because they're walking among us because we look like them. They're not, it's weird. Now, there is a saying that the ones that takes the lizard form has not had enough whatever from humans to convert this way, or the shape-shifting, some can and some can't. So there's what we call the originals, and we've heard that in the vampire stories. And then you got your hybrids. And so that's another way for you to kind of look at that. The other thing was, why did Adam lose his chance at immortality in the Garden of Eden? That's a question that they talk about in this book. Now, here's the connection, though. Who were the Nephilim who descended from heaven and mated with the human women? And why did the serpent take such a bomb rap in history? Excuse me. And why didn't Adam and Eve wear clothes? There was some stuff that they talk about where, shiny objects and all of these things. And so I think it's something to look at it from there. If you get value, there's 140 people in here tonight. Go ahead and like the video for me, please, so we can get 100 likes instantly. And that'll kind of tell the algorithm that we're doing a good job. And so, like I said, if you're finding that with our conversation at least interesting enough, that you will go ahead and like the video. So let me kind of check it real quick to see where we are. And all right, so we have 99 likes already. So we're doing good. I just looked. So we get a couple of more of you liking the video, then that's cool too. Also, the quickest announcement made here is, as you know, we're 13. This is the 13th. And so we're 10 days away from our next meetup in Dallas. And so therefore, if you have not got on our text list for information, there's a number on the screen, 888-440-9771. Text the word meetup to that number. It's a toll-free number, and then it's going to put you on our list. And then tomorrow, in a couple of days, I'll start sending out the address and updates as we get closer to our Dallas meetup. And like I said, from 10 to 3, we're in an indoor location this month and throughout the rest of the year. And then also we're going to have a sound, which I put it on the screen right there, stillness, meditation, and healing sound vibration. And Offset will be doing that from 10 to 11. So that's up to you if you want to show up early enough to do that. And then you can bring your yoga mats and everything. And I'm telling you, I'm going through that right now, and it's just really interesting there. So once again, get on our text list, see you in Dallas, and get on the text list. I'm only going to text you about that event maybe 2 or 3 times a month, so that it's not something that we're, but that's where the address is going to come from, okay? Because that way it allows us to know who's going to show up and who's not, or whatever, and those hidden people straggling in. But eventually, I'm sure the word will get out. Okay, all right. So as we went to the great dragon, which we were just talking about, and the archetypes. Now, once again, I'm giving you the symbolic linkings to the reptilian motif. There's the serpentine beings as rulers and judges. Remember that. This is where Pharaoh, sometimes symbolically linked to the crocodile imagery in Ezekiel 29:3. So think about it once again. Why are we seeing these motifs? And everybody's giving their depictions, but it still leads to some type of reptilian lookalikes or connections or wherever it is. So obviously at this point, we're talking about how there is a symbolic connection to all of this, and it's worth noting. So as we've already gone, what do y'all think about the whole reptilian thing? Some people just don't believe it. Some people know it's real. And I'm saying, besides the fact that we got people doing videos or saying shapeshifters exist, let's go into ancient side, biblical side, or have you ever wondered of any of this when you read some of this stuff biblically anyway? And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to grid like this information to you. And now we can break down the biblical symbolism and modern reptilian archetypes. So I'm going to now bridge the gap for you. And it'll be really constructive here for you. So for example, in the serpent in Genesis 3, the key passage, if you're going to go look it up, is Genesis chapter 3, 1 through 15. All right. Now, there's a role of this. All right. So we have a super chat, and he have now set the tone. So all super chats take priority over any conversation in the chat from this day forward. We have now set the tone, and y'all give a shout out to some John Doe. All right. So the question is, were the Anunnaki reptilians or even the original reptilians? What is your take? Great question. From some of the things that I have read in some of these books, the Anunnaki or the reptilians. And I've read it in plenty of these books. So if you guys get some of these books and stuff, there is association of them being the reptilians, and also them being the Nephilims, the how they bred with them, the humans and everything else. And so, which makes sense to why the secrecy, or, the whole thing that we can't really look at the originals, right? And so when you say even the original reptilians. Now, having said that, people should now understand that even now, when you start thinking about the biblical side of things, and you start looking at the biblical side of things, then you can look at it. So think of the Anunnaki as a race of people, right? But however, the race of the Anunnaki were reptilian. Okay, so we can look at it this way. But when you start thinking about what we're hearing, some of the stories, they had scaly skin, and when Joy Maxwell talks about that God. Okay, so nowhere in the Bible God said he made man, right? There's not in the Bible. They never said that, right? However, God created a man and put him in the Garden of Eden or whatever. So somebody made an alteration to the Neanderthal or whatever type of man that was already there and could have been reptilians, right? And so that's where some of the stories go into, and which is in the ufology community, that's who the war is about. Everybody's against them. Every galactic federation, everyone else is against the reptilian beings and everything else. And so hopefully, maybe I didn't give you the best of answers, but it does send us down the road. And again, thank you for the super chat. And anyone else want to say anything or get into a deeper conversation, please use the super chat. And yeah, I've noticed that all the other channels are doing it, and this is how their channels are growing and financially surviving. And it's a little better than just saying, okay, give donations and stuff. But at least somebody's really having dialogue, and that's what they want. It works. And so I've never done that and requested that much in the past. But for us to survive and to make it where we're going with this channel, I have to follow what works for whatever. But still have your conversations with each other, right? It's just that that will be good and cool. So back to what I said, if we go back to the biblical symbolism and the modern reptilian archetype, so we'll talk about the serpent in Genesis 3. So look it up, Genesis 3 through 1 through 15. Now, the deceptive part of this is that it's intelligent, seeks to subvert humanity's destiny by offering hidden knowledge, and also later identified with Satan. So that leads us to the point where people are saying, was Satan the bad guy or Lucifer? I'm sorry. So we go to Lucifer, and was he the bad person? Because they was God's angels, right? Is Lucifer Satan? Those are typical questions that people ask and people want to know the answers to, and whatever. And like I say, you all can have your discussions there, but I'm saying it all leads down. Now, the overlap with modern reptilian lores, what we're going to talk about, reptilians are often portrayed as deceptive beings influencing human development and hidden truth. So the overlap of that is the negative side, is that they are in control. Now we talk about the elites. Now we talk about MK Ultra. We can go into the mind control. We can go into celebrities. You go into the Masonic stuff, but you go into the black and white checkerboards. You go into the symbolism. And this is why you heard me say, the world is strange, people. This world is strange. It is very strange. And the more deeper we go, is the deeper we're going to realize that. And we don't get too upset about it. Or we can get fun and say, okay, shoot, there's a lot of stuff to learn. There's a lot of stuff that we can go and look into. Oh, that's interesting. I don't have to watch Netflix. I can just talk to Roderick and some people and whatever, or we can go deep into stuff. You find something, I find something, and we share it in our communities, and we go deep because it's interesting. And what else can we do in life is to live interestingly. At least I think that's a great point, right? So, but the difference is that in Genesis, the serpent works for a spiritual agenda, which is a rebellion against God, right? That's how it's laid out, not for planetary colonization or political control. It's a whole different agenda. Why is that? Why do most collective scholars are saying that we're looking at things wrong? Why most scholars are saying that they have manipulated what we need to do, see, pray to, in ways. And once again, we're not saying God, the Most High, doesn't exist. No one said that. And I'm saying not that. It exists. The God exists, whether it's in you, me, or out there, right? It exists. And all of these people playing God is where the problem lies, because we were gullible enough to believe anybody, like I said, came from the skies were gods. And all of a sudden, it's in our history books. It's everywhere. And they've done so much good job in foods and all of this stuff to get us to not connect directly with the Creator ourselves. And it seems to be the best plan that they put in place. So another one would be the Pharaoh as crocodile, sea monster. Remember this. This is in Ezekiel. And the connection or the symbolic role of that was the Pharaoh likened to a great dragon, Tamanin, Tamin, right? Or the crocodile in the Nile, and a proud early ruler resisting God's authority. Once again, it's resisting God's authority. So we have this one, we got the first one, we got Satan, we got Lucifer. So these things are put, but yet supposedly the Lucifer, the light barrier, is a different story. And like I said, I'm just talking. I'm not teaching that stuff. I'm just talking. This is a conversation. If you and I were sitting at the table, we can sit here and talk about it, laugh, and don't argue. If you see it on one side of the fence, I'm on the other side of the fence. You get what I'm saying? We ain't persecuting each other, but I know more people have stopped talking to each other over this. There's more people won't even take your phone call no more because they're stricken by the fact that you can't have an opposite thing. It doesn't make you a different person because you walk this walk and that walk. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to do the rituals that they do or whatever. That's being involved. But you never know. Your best friend is a lion and you're a lamb, and he don't eat you. You get what I'm saying? I'm not saying they don't eat other lambs, but he don't eat you. And so who knows? But anyway, the Ezekiel, the reptilian conspiracy lore often holds position of political power, acting as hidden rulers. This is where we get into our politics. This is where we get into the royal families. This is where we get into the David Icke talking of credo mutwa, and going all the way back to the African, and now going into Egypt and all these places, the giants and all. This is where this folklore begins to erupt and come into fruition through the historic stories. And it happens that way. So it's something there. So when you think about the crocodile image, is metaphorical, not literal, right? Pharaoh is a human, but not compared to reptile symbolism in his arrogance. So once again, we have a whole new story to look at. Now, let's break down the fiery serpents and seraphim. This is another story. This is in Numbers 21:6 and Isaiah 6:2. So you can go look that up. Seraphim or fiery burning ones, rooted words linked to serpents. Fiery serpents in Numbers punish the rebellion. Once again, these are all over the Bible. Now, the parallels in this particular ideal of otherworldly serpentine beings with great power, sometimes pushing or testing humanity. This is where it is. And so it, again, leads us to the understanding, or to get the understanding of the true meanings when we're talking about the serpents in the Bible, then leads us back to the conspiracy world of, is there some reptilian existence? You get what I'm saying? And it takes us down there, because here, the biblical seraphim and or divine servants, modern reptilians, are often cast as malevolent controllers. But in some other cases, as some people eloquently put it here in the chat, the serpent knowledge is not malevolent, it's benevolent. But yet they do everything in their powers to say, don't look at it, don't study it. Now, there was a time that a lot of the religious stuff I wouldn't even go into. I wouldn't do it, until David Icke once in a conversation was like, hey, you can't have no-go areas. If you are seeking the truth, if you are a truth seeker, there can't be an area you do want to go. Because if the truth lies in that dark corner and you don't want to go there, how do you proclaim that you're a truth seeker if that's what it is? You may be a truth desire. You may want to be the one to say that, but then this is where we get to the point where
you want the truth, you can't handle the truth.
And that may be what they're saying to us. This is probably why you hear me have a change of tone and say, there are some things that we don't need to know, or everyone don't need to know. A lot of people can't handle it, and they may not mentally be prepared for this stuff. And it may have been a great idea not to share certain information. I ain't say the desire of one to know, but some people just can't handle it, and it's different. I mean, imagine your kid at 2 years old who you done prompt that Santa Claus is bringing Christmas. And then when you don't have the money, when you're broken that month or what, now you want to reveal the truth because you want to tell them why it ain't coming because they believe they've been good. Santa Claus is coming. But then the ego says, I want to sit down and tell you it ain't really Santa, it's me. And I've been out of work for 16 years and I can't buy you nothing. Well, I'm just using time, right? And that's only the time when we want to reveal to our children that the story is real, when we can't play the role. So I'm saying to you, where I connect those dots is it's worth us knowing the truth and exploring all of those dark corners. Now, the other part would be if we decide to say, all right, there was beast-like transformation in that word that I put on the screen. Nebuchadnezzar. That's what it is. I think I'm getting it right. Nebuchadnezzar. Because wasn't that the ship on Morpheus called the Nebuchadnezzar, right? Or whatever. Am I right about that? Let me put it back on the screen because obviously I am butchering it up. But is that what it is now? Nebuchadnezzar? Yeah. Wasn't that a ship on the movie The Matrix or Matrix 1 or 2 that they were part of the fleet? Well, anyway, in Daniel 4:33, human king degraded into an animal-like state as divine judgment. And so therefore, it echoes themes of human rulers becoming more beastly, losing humanity, sometimes mirrored in reptilian hybrid narratives. So you see the connections unfolding here, right? So the Nebuchadnezzar remains human in his transformation and symbolic and temporary. So all of a sudden we got these names in the matrix. Okay, thank y'all. Yeah. Okay. So that also takes us down to that. And so if I want to give you any patterns of overlap in tonight's conversation, both biblical and serpentine figures and modern reptilians are associated with scales, claws, and cold-blooded imagery. Both of them are the same thing. Why is that? Why is the biblical serpentine figures and modern reptilians are associated with scales, claws, and cold-blooded imagery? It's worth us looking into it. You want to talk about the function? Both are depicted as manipulative powers right across the board. And you could look at that. So I got my Ebonics text. She said it is Nebuchadnezzar. All right. So I'm going to take the word off the screen. Well, anyway, there it is. Nebuchadnezzar. Did she say that? Oh, yeah. Nebuchadnezzar. Okay. Nebuchadnezzar. All right. So not Nebuchadnezzar. Okay. Nebuchadnezzar. All right. Anyway, Morpheus said it correctly too. All right. So back to the functions. Both are depicted. And so, yeah, we through with that banner. So let me take it down. All right. So both are depicted as manipulative powers, right? We know that. Now, whether in spiritual realm, the Bible, or geological hidden realm of modern lore, either way, the reptilian stuff exists. And for us to not take the curiosity hat on and place it on, and the glasses, and the shoes, and go walk the walk of curiosity, then we'll be wrong for that. We will be totally wrong for not putting on the gear and do what we're doing. Y'all get what I'm saying, right? We will be wrong for that. So put on your hat of curiosity, put on the eyes of curiosity, put on the shoes so you can walk the path. And like I said, you find your way back too, so leave breadcrumbs either which way. But it's worth us knowing what is there, and hey, still, be Simba in the Lion King. When his daddy says, what is that? He says, the shadowy place. Don't go there, Simba. Simba, don't go to the shadowy place, right? And Simba's like, well, I'm going because I'm curious. I'm going. I want to know what's in the shadowy place. And he said, everything in the light touches we rule, but that don't go there. So when you start thinking about ancient origins, both are imagined are as beings, right? They all are. So when we go into the ancient origins of this, both are imagined as beings from before human history evolved in humanity's story from the start. Why is that? In every story, they're involved in our story. They're involved. You can't write the history without them being in it, right? So is it worth curiosity? Is all I'm saying. I'm not saying anything else. And then we get to the most devious part is rulership and control. Both often occupy throne-like positions. Pharaohs, Satan, or hidden reptilian monarchs that we know about now. Is there a coincidence to that? Now, of course, you know my belief on coincidence is God's way of being anonymous. There is none. All right? He's just being anonymous when that happens. But it does get you to get to a point to start thinking things through in a curiosity format in your mind, just to awaken your curiosity. Now, there are some divergences in this. It really is. And we're talking about the nature of some of these beings when we get to this, but we're talking about the Bible here. And these are either metaphors in the Bible for human pride, or cosmic forces of chaos, or spiritual beings, or quote unquote, angels, fallen angels, and Satan. Okay? Let me repeat that. We're talking about divergence, key divergence in this deal, and the nature of these beings in the Bible. You know, they're either metaphors for human pride, if we want to use that. Maybe it's cosmic forces and chaos of or spiritual beings. And then we break it down what the spiritual beings in the Bibles are. They're angels, they're fallen angels, and it's Satan. Is that not worth us being curious about? Should we not be curious? Because the purposes of all of this is that the Bible says that in the Bible, they oppose God's plan and corrupt humanity spiritually. This is the whole thing. And anybody disagreeing with that? Probably not. However, the modern lore is that they control humanity politically. We talk about that now, economically and biologically. So these are things we're dealing with in real time that's worth having a conversation. And we ain't got to talk about the moral complexity of this whole deal, because it does have it. It really does, because when you start looking at the biblical serpentine beings aren't always evil in some cases. Bronze serpent of Numbers in 21:9 used for healing, and the seraphim served God. That throws the whole thing left. Somebody explain that to me, right? When I say explain that to me, compared to what we've been taught. And all of a sudden in Numbers 21:9 is a whole different, is a whole book. They're used for healing serpent, and this is where we get the emblem of the medical world. And it's all just curiosity, is all I'm saying. You know, I'm not stamping anything except for curiosity here. Truth versus authority is the whole thing. And then you start really looking at the moral complexity. Modern reptilian narratives rarely portray them as benevolent. But yet, the word is the word. The word is the word, even though it's been revised, but there is a God. We know that. There is the one God, the Most High. It exists. Now, maybe the players in the bottom level of this game is totally different. But somebody has taken things on a whole different level. That's all I'm trying to say. So that leads us to go to the ancient Near Eastern roots of serpentine and dragons imagery. That takes us to the cultures and myth. That takes us to Babylonian that we'll talk about here. It takes us to Egyptians that we can talk about here. And it goes into all of these things. And like I said, I'm talking about this book. Some stuff come out, The Reptilian Agenda. If you just joined us, you can get this book. Flyings and Serpents and Dragons by B.A. Boulay is one of the best that I think. Okay. Reptilian book here is The Secret History of the Reptilians. The pervasive presence of serpent in human history, religions, and alien mythos. Once again, they're all saying they have connected with humans. Here, the story of mankind, that's us, our reptilian past, if though there's something exists that we need to know. This is the Nephilims, which we go into that. Some of my favorite, again, is the Reptilian Bible by Darian Thomas. He has 4 different books here. This first one is the Reptilian Bible, Demology of the Serpent and the Illuminati. We already know what they're using it for, the Illuminati. We talked about that. You can go into part 2 of the book and the Second Testament of Reptilia and Demology of the Serpent Race. Part 3 is the Third Testament of Reptilia and the snake and how the lizard operates, so that you get to the mind of this thing. And we all got a reptilian brain. We do. Not one of us don't have it, according to scientists, right? So Reptilian Bible, the revolution of the reptile. This is the Fourth Testament, the lizard links, the dragon deceptions. And it's all about deceptions because they're playing with our mind. We can go there. And then, of course, our all favorite is this one. This one you can get. We've seen this, these things right now in the past. You've seen them in Peru and all of this. That is a reptilian that humans made. Humans saw whatever they saw and created a rock figure to immortalize or whatever, paintings, whatever you want to call it, of this something they saw with their eyes. A reptilian breastfeeding a baby reptilian. Okay. And the reptilian alien origins of the human species. All right. So we know this exists. This is historic. This is not made up. This is found in culture everywhere, all over the world. And then, of course, Jordan Maxwell, which, if Jordan talks about it, we're on point. So I use that. And then these here. This is 4 different books, 1,600 pages. When this book, and I'm just giving you some, this one is the reptilian connection to man. That's us. Serpent God, serpent worship, serpent lore, serpent biology, serpent evolution. This is the part. And it goes into, and I'm just giving you the head of the serpent, Babylonian origins, Medusa, Apollo, the great mother Medusa too, the serpent woman of Hayden Lake, snake order, Pueblo snake ceremonials, a Central America ceremony, the Hopi Indian snake washing, the snow snake of the senior Incas, the serpent instinct in man in India. This is part 2. It goes into the basilisk, the dragon, the Leviathan, the chameleon, stuff we was talking about, the serpent symbol, the tree in serpent worship in India, the curse of the serpent mist, the cross and the serpent. Volume 3 goes into the natural history of the serpent, the intelligence of snakes, the evolution of mammals from reptilians, the reptilian brain structure of the medulla oblongata. We know that the reptilian brain gets, again, the histology of the medulla reptilian character of human teeth, reptilian brain in the medulla oblongata. Again, the reptilian brain is reptilian spine. Is that the kundalini, or what are we talking about? This one's volume 2. Oh, that was volume 3 and 4. So I was going backwards. Okay, but either way, the serpent with a human head, the serpent in the Old Testament, the serpent in dread of primate families, primates, be exact, right? Serpent charming, serpent in silver worship, the snake symbol in the worship of silver, the worship of creative power symbolized by the serpent. And so I'm saying there's a lot of information to be curious about, which set me on my curiosity to go down this road and start reading this stuff. So if you start talking about culture and myth, and we talk about the key serpent dragon figure, and we can talk about roles, let's go to Babylonian. We're talking about Tiamat, primordial chaos, the serpent dragon. And the role in the Babylonian time was that the goddess of salt, saltwater chaos, slain by Marduk to create order. So go look that up. Jen, if she was here, she can tell you about all of that. It's part of the book, that I'm writing or have written, and all of those things. The Leviathan in Isaiah, job as the chaos monster destroyed by God. So here we go again. And then ancient, if the reptilian archetypes, the parallels there is ancient cosmic force defeated by heroic figure, the ancient enemy trope. So it goes deeper. If we want to go to the algorithmic, then you're talking about the Lotan, which is 7-headed sea serpent. If you go look that up, defeated by Baal, if you remember the story, and then the creation of combat and myth. Now, this is almost identical if you start looking at that story to the Leviathan, and it echoes in the great dragon of Revelation if you start looking this up. Now, once again, we're going down the rabbit hole of the serpent stuff. We're talking multi-headed ancient serpents, matches depiction of reptilian overlords in some of the esoteric lore. And let us not go, and we'll go to, let me just take you down to Egyptian, I'll take you to Greece, I'll take you to Mesopotamia. All right, so in Mesopotamia, you talk about Apophis, which was a giant serpent of the underworld. This is in their culture. The enemy of the sun, which was the enemy of the sun god Ra. And he tries to swallow the sun each night. You remember that? Okay, in the stories. The old serpent in Revelation as the enemy of light, and older as the Pharaoh crocodile in Ezekiel 29. We're talking in Egyptian. And then the interpreted in occult circles, we already know that the serpent of darkness and influencing rulers, that's on the top of the pyramid triangle that we have. So let's go into Mesopotamia, which gets interesting because the Lord of God of tree. Now that gets really interesting, right? So now we're looking at a whole different things because we're talking about the serpent deity associated with wisdom and the gateways to the underworld. If we go to Mesopotamia, it's a whole different facet. And we're also talking about echoes the Eden serpent, the tree of knowledge, the garden imagery, all that exists when we're talking about the reptilian stuff, right? And it gets you going, all right, that's fine. And then, of course, in Mesopotamia, the reptilians are the gatekeepers to the secret knowledge or the hidden realms. Look it up. Why is that? So on one hand, it's where knowledge is kept. On the other hand, it's the most worst satanic side. There's got to be some truth somewhere. And it's worth us looking it up because if we already don't go there because we're told not to go there, then it's a whole different story when it comes down to the storyline and everything else. And so that's how it works, right? And I think it's worth knowing, to kind of look at things to at least give a idea, because now that takes us all the way to Greek. So we just came from Egypt, Mesopotamia. Now, what did the Greeks say? The Greeks have the python, which was the serpent that was slain by Apollo. All right, this is Greek mythology now. And it guarded the oracle of Delphin and linked to the prophecy when it comes down to this. And then also there's in Greek, serpents are guardians of divine secrets, similar to Genesis 3, if you go back there, and temptation with wisdom. So all of these things. So when we start talking about the reptilian beings in lore, often depicted as keepers of forbidden truth. And I'm saying this to say, is that not worth it that at some point it gives us the curiosity to go beyond the veil, the Wizard of Oz, get behind the curtain and ignore the stay away sign, so to speak. I didn't tell you to go walk into hell. I didn't say that. I didn't say go join an occult and get the Baphomet symbol and put that on your arm. I didn't say that. All I'm saying is if we're truth seekers and if you can handle it, it's worth us going to places seeking the truth to find out. And if it's nothing there, then and then the truth is over here, you have obtained the truth. But if you only over here and you only been giving the truth, and you have the ability to explore, you have the ability to seek thyself, to go on the journey of you. You should know you. And if any of it got to do with you, you want to know you. You want to know yourself, right? And if getting to know yourself is to see the dark side, if it's dark, and the light side, if it's light, and compare notes, then it will allow you to have a better understanding of yourself. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with putting on those shoes. And I ain't say walk in them or if anybody's shoes, but you put on a hat of curiosity and you want to do that. Now, there is where we're talking about the transmission into the Bible, because I will say that the biblical authors didn't create the serpent dragon image in a vacuum. They didn't. They adapted it. They redefined it. Remember, it's been revised a bunch of times, revised, so to speak. They spiritualized all ancient myth, because we go right back real quick to Leviathan, the Hebrew version of Lotan, if you remember that, stripped of divine status, made into a created chaos beast under God's authority. The Eden serpent draws on Mesopotamia, the tradition of serpents as guardians or sacred trees, right? But reinterprets the serpent as the agent of corruption rather than a helper. The pharaohs as a crocodile, as I remind, political against Egypt's divine kingship imagery that it has. The symbolism there, where the crocodile symbolized Sobuk, a protective and powerful God. And like I said, it gets to a point. So as we get ready to come to a close, I still got a few more things to discuss, is that the modern reptilian lore has, I would say, as a mystic echo. So if we start talking about David Icke and the conspiracy narratives over esoteric systems, he says shapeshifters rule. They're rulers. They echo the Pharaoh crocodiles and Revelation dragon as ruling powers in disguise. This is where we bring it home now. This is where I'm going to bring it into modern times for you right now, because this is where we are. Now we just spent the last hour and 20 minutes that way. Now let's kind of tape it in a little bit, because I did a lot of, this took me a week and a half to write this for tonight, to get it all together, place it in some format for me to understand, to be able to articulate it in the best way, to categorize things, to put things, because I know it's a topic that gets a little itchy when it comes down to it. So anyway, if we start talking about some of the lore, ancient alien origins, when we're talking about this, it's similar to how Tiamat, all right, we got to go there, Lotan, Leviathan, or primordial beings from before human age. So all of a sudden, they give us the description of Tiamat, they give us a description of Lotan, they give us a description of Leviathan, but we always told that they was here before we got here. So is it not possible that somebody tampered with that species of Neanderthal, placed it in a place to where they wanted to fix it and grow it, and then say, okay, let's change the look of it or something? I'm just throwing that out there. I'm just throwing it out there. But hidden knowledge and control. This is where it gets a little in modern day today. We're talking the mirrors of Eden serpent. We're talking about the python's role in keepers or manipulators of wisdom. And then last but not least is the underworld, baby. The underworld realms, the parallels layer in Duat and Leviathan's dwelling in the deep. We talk about the underground, reptilians in the caves. Everybody's been depicting those stories, all the abduction stories, and it just takes it to a whole nother level. And last part of this will be the archetypal continuum as we go down into how we trace these archetypes and symbolism. We can talk about the mythic chaos and serpents, the pre-biblical Tiamat. I just said that. Apet is A-P-E-T, Lotan, all of this stuff. You're talking spiritual enemies of the Bible, biblical spiritual enemies. But again, that's the political metaphors, Satan, Pharaoh, or Pharaoh as a reptile. We can talk about the occults as we bring this home as the archetype. We're talking about Reninus, demonology. That's in all these little books he talks about, Kabbalistic stuff of serpent traditions. It's everywhere in plain sight, but yet we've been told not to look at these things. And modern sci-fi, out of all people, conspiracy recasting, reptilian alien overlords controlling humanity, And because we have a reptilian DNA or gene or reptilian brain. So to close it out, this conversation, I want you to consider curiosity thoughts here. There's a symbolic core functions that remain surprisingly stable over the last 4,000 years. And one is they oppose the divine light order. The other one is they seek to deceive or control humanity. The other one is originated in ancient and pre-human realms, and they have a connection to forbidden and dangerous knowledge. So that's all the 4 takeaways. If we go anywhere to why it is worth curiosity, I didn't say stay, park your car, park your mind there. I'm saying you're a truth seeker, and it's worth seeking the truth. And remember this saying, the world is a book. I want you to know that. And, you know, if you don't open up the book, you may just go to one page of the world, and not saying that everything is there, but that's where it is. And if you have something that you want to live forever, place it in a book, and hopefully it stays in archives. Then your great-grandkids already know how you think. Biocarmal immortality, books, videos, things. If YouTube stays up 200 years, they don't take channels down. Somebody's going to find my conversations 300 years later. And I can live forever through conversation of technology here, I'm just saying, right? But you get what I'm talking about. Write your books. A lot of you got books in you is where I'm alluding to. A lot of you got a lot of information. Write it, leave it for your grandkids so they know your thoughts. They know your train. They know the world. Send them the messages or whatever. Because in time, just like they have done the biggest trick in hidden information, twisted the facts, made one thing bad, good, whatever it could be, it worked. They were able to change truth over time. Because while we walk this world in our linear time of 100 years or whatever we've been given here, they play and echo 1,000-year game, people. They're playing a game so far longer than we even imagined. We don't play the same game. We don't play the same game. So I'm saying right now, and I'm calling arms, some of you got books in you. Some of you are ready for podcasts. Some of you are ready for YouTube channels. Some of you know more than what I know. You know what I'm saying? And can probably talk me under the sun. And maybe you just place a comment. Maybe you just sit back at night and be going like, yeah, you don't know nothing. Well, then come out and say something. You don't have to put me down, but you can say what you know. You can put out what you know. And if you don't want to be seen, you don't want your face to be seen, write a book and put a pen name on it. That's the best way. But if you want the world to know and you'll be remembered like you should be, come out of the dark, because there's more time than needed now for content creators. And I'm no longer saying truth seekers, I'm saying truth speakers now. Because we're at a time now, it's time for people to come out and talk and really talk. Because there ain't nothing that's no worse than they can do than anything else. And that's what I'm trying to say. And being that saying, that is the end of tonight's live stream. Hopefully, again, you found value in tonight's. I'll put up the Cash App banner because we are a funded show. We don't get a lot of funds, but that's okay. Like I say, if you at least like this video, then we will get YouTube to, the algorithm will go, and maybe there's some ad revenue comes from this. If you start sharing the content, more people come, watch it, the channel grows, then we don't need to ask, or I don't, right? It'll be given. It should be given for the value, because what we got to understand, something that I've learned, and I was told, but I've learned, and I'm going to leave you with this wisdom of it. Your how can I put it? I won't say finance or whatever it is, but whatever our life is the value that we're giving to humanity is equal to that. So, and you can use that analogy in the job force, but I want you to think about life. The more value that I give to humanity as this audience grows, the bigger the resources come. So you wonder why there's a pastor with 10,000 members and he may have more money than the one that has a church of 10. And then, of course, the one at church of 10 say, well, they don't like to do revivals, but they have revivals, but they don't want to grow. I went to a church some years back over in South Dallas, and they was having a revival, but the pastor stood right up there and said he don't want a big church. Well, then why are you having a revival? I got up and left. It didn't make sense. And people were still cheering him and go, yes, Lord, we don't need a big church. But y'all having a revival. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I'm totally wrong with that. All right, we got a super sticker from Johnny. I appreciate it, brother. So what I'm saying is what I was told is the way my lifestyle is directly proportionate with the value that I'm giving to humanity. So when I grow this thing to 1 million subscribers, 100,000 subscribers, and there's 50, 100,000 views, then ad revenue is going to be bigger. It can't help but be bigger. Lifestyle changes will be bigger. Financially, it'll be bigger. But now it's your help to share. If you feel comfortable in sharing my content, right? Or for you. So why is Mark Zuckerberg one of the wealthiest people on the planet? Because he created something that have given humanity a bigger value. Why Jeff Bezos is one of the world's richest men? Well, because he created something called Amazon that the whole world uses. It can't help but be financially huge. I mean, his life. If you provide something to humanity that the world uses, needs, on the flip side of the coin, you're going to be great. So some of you have some of the greatest contributions to humanity is what I'm saying, and yet you don't put it out there. You hide behind the curtains because you think you're being watched. You think you're being watched, right? You know, you figure every click on the phone is them listening to you. I'm not saying they don't do that, but they got bigger fish to fry than all of us, I will say. Now, we get to 2 million people listening to, now we can be watched legitimately because we got something to say. We can make a ripple in the thread if something comes out of truth. But if it's you and you're on a phone and you know you don't have an audience or you whatever, and you feel that they're watching you, suppressing you, it's in the mind. That character in the mind is now playing havoc on you. And it's got you in a place to where they can control and they don't even have to be there. This is what I'm saying. It's time for us to stop that, and get to a point. And I don't know who I'm talking to. It doesn't matter. Maybe I'm talking to the wind. But I know some of y'all out there got some information. Some of y'all are great writers, idealists, and you're hiding in the dark. There's people that have seen Beyonce under a roof. They just know nobody knows about you. You cooking fried chicken this weekend and you can sing better than anybody out there. That's all I'm saying. It's time. So, the update is, I don't know how many weight now. As y'all know, this is a pound effect. But the last time I checked in, I was at 387 on Monday. When I went to the doctor, I'm gonna weigh in again for y'all on next Monday for our Monday show. I have taken it to the next level. I've been, I've used to prior to when I was a lot heavier, I was started eating rabbit meat. I know, poor Bugs Bunny. Now I've decided that in the backyard right here, I'm going to get me some rabbits and I'm going to make my own, I'm going to, create my own meat rabbits. I just visited a location that'll process them for me for $3. They'll process chicken. And they have live chickens, grass-fed chickens. You walk and say, I want that one. and then they process it for you. The whole chicken and process is $10. You didn't go through the process of going through the store freezers and chemicals to keep it red and white for 10,000 months until you buy it. It's the way, the future. And ever since I've been going on this cleansing and mind cleansing and stillness, it's just opening up for me the little smallest thing. Have my own eggs. I only but 2 chickens. I got a friend of mine, Lim, he comes from Oklahoma, and he has eggs, fresh eggs, produce, things that it multiplies itself. And if you run out, get you a rooster, then you have some more. You don't have to. They don't have to control your food supply or any of that, because we can do it ourselves. And I know somebody like, oh no, Roger, you're going to eat a bunny. Well, it's a meat rabbit. And I've been studying it. And I've already was buying it like $28 for a 4 or 5 pound, and it'll last a long time. But I started doing, okay, now I got enough room to put 2 or 3 hutches right here over in his office. So I'm going to let y'all know. And then in a few months, I'll start one rabbit. I just learned one female rabbit, doe, can have like 7 kit litters a year with about 8 in each one. That's 56 rabbits. And you're talking having 2 is enough to feed a family of 2 or 3 or 4. 3 rabbits will feed you and your family. You're just buying food. And if you don't want to go buy food to feed them, then you grow it in the garden and feed them moringa, all the stuff, and they eat. So now you're raising, what I'm saying, some of y'all may like, but now hell with that. People, they're putting some stuff now that is whacking us up. They're having CAFOs. Go look it up, and all of those things. That's not beef. Some of you are thinking, well, Roderick, I don't eat McDonald's. I did a whole thing 10 years ago. McDonald's uses things called CAFOs. Go look it up. You can look it up tonight. And CAFOs is very weird for beef. But go pull it up. McDonald's is the #1 purchaser of beef, the #1 purchase of apples, the #1 purchase of lettuce, the #1 purchase of chicken, and all of these things. So when they go to the 5 meat producers and say, we are the #1 buyer and we need our beef like this, do you not think they don't adhere to McDonald's protocol, and then what's left over is in our meat supply? It has no choice unless you go get it from somebody organically who growing it out there on the land. Otherwise, it's in the system, because the #1. So if you're the big dog, you're going to get it your way, and they're going to make it your way. And then the rest of it goes our way, but it's the same thing. So some people are eating it and don't know. I'm just saying. Ryan said he had lamb for the first month ago, and it was set. Yeah, lamb is good too. So this place I find is not, because I'm in a country on the edge of Dallas, but so they have processors. We can go in, we can find a organic beef grower if that's what you want. We can find one together. We can go half on the cow, on the beef. I mean, we go to buy somebody who grass feed their beef. We buy it together, me and you. We might spend $1,200. We take it over to this place, $300 some. They make it into whatever we want, hamburger, sausage, ribs, whatever, and give it to you all packaged. And then we go put it in our freezers for a whole year. And we don't have tainted stuff. Same thing. I'm just letting you know. So if you find somebody who raises goats, you can go buy one and take it and have it. Find a processor in your area so that you know where your meat is coming from. Start there. So when I get off this 30 days, I'm going to know, because I'm raising it, I'm feeding it. And if it's what it is, it's going to have the best of the food, best of the life, whatever. And I'm going to pray over it. I'm going to give it the energy because it's serving. I'm going to give it its honor as I do this. Our Indian, family members, every time they took down a buffalo, they thanked it. They thanked it for its nourishments. They thanked for what it was getting ready to do, because that was a purpose for it. So we'll do it the same. I'm just saying, I know some of y'all might like whatever. So how many of you have thought about stuff like that? Put in a chat. Would you do something like that? I mean, and we're thinking we have to have a farm, just have a yard. You know what I'm saying? Just have a yard. And okay, I know some people say y'all won't eat meat. I get it. That's your choice, right? That you can do that. That's your choice. That's not, we're not saying, anything. But I'm saying if you're going to eat it, let's try to get the best way. We can't, if you don't have enough land to grow cattle, then we can't tap into that unless, again, you go buy it. We all coughing, okay? And that's how reptilians feel about humans. Right. I hear you. And I'm saying this. And so I'm not going against the grain on anyone, but I will tell you, going through this process that I've gone through, reversing the experience of sugar that I had in my body, the doctors preparing to take me off the meds, and I already been taken off mainly most of them 2 months ago when I started, and now I'm extreme in this journey. All the things that I've done, looked at and said, okay, fine. The body, the way it's rebounding now, I mean, very quickly. Things that they told me that I'm going to have to have some surgery for in 2 months, that I went there and it was like, well, what happened? They were surprised. Not the one y'all saw, but the other. Well, we thought we need to surgery. How did you reverse this? Oh, really? So obviously they weren't going to give me a remedy. They're not going to give me a remedy, So I'm just saying to you, I don't know why I said all this tonight. I love y'all. That's all I'm going to say. I love you. I love each and every one of you. It may not warrant to, whatever, but if it's enough for you to come back tomorrow for our next show, that's cool. I love each and every one of you. And hopefully, I make a difference in one life, 2, 3, 4, and I'm remembered, right? At some point. And we all are for something, for someone, or whatever it is. But one thing's for certain now, as I am in the part of my life at 55 and never experienced true love. So I'm after a lot of stuff right now. So now it's time for me to put myself in a position to understand it, be better, make someone else's life better if that's possible too, but also live better because I got enough wisdom behind me to know what didn't work. I got enough wisdom to know that the fast food didn't work for me. I know this now. I don't have to look into it, right? So it's one of those things. And but anyway, some of you are having a great time in the chat there, and whatever, however you take it, or pretty much. But if you got any value out tonight, just put in the chat so I'll know I talked to somebody. It could be 1, it could be 10, but just let me know that you got anything from tonight for your time. Your most precious commodity that you have on this planet is time, and that I didn't waste your time. Now, if you stay here the whole time and you say it was a waste of time, then that was a choice, right? You get that a lot. People say, oh, every time I watch him, it's a waste of time. Every time I watch him, it's a waste of time. That is the most funniest thing I ever heard. Every time you'll see it on Forbidden Knowledge, they put the comment, every time I watch him, it's a waste of time. Every time. But he keeps coming back. So, yeah, it's something. But if that warranty anything, we would do that. Ryan says my time wasn't wasted. Appreciate it. Thank you. I just want to make sure. Someone says a 9. I don't know what the number means, but a 9. Okay. 9 out of 10. Well, that's cool. Denzel said no, it was good. Low-key said my time is never wasted. I appreciate it. I just want to honor what you all are saying. I've wasted lots of time to spark a fire without kindling. Hey, I hear you. Did I miss anything? Already dead? Wake up. Come back alive. Yes, we get ready to end the show. So great show tonight. Cool. Renee says I always got value from it. It was actually quality time. Thank you, David. And Judith says great show. Always getting info. Yeah. And we're doing it. And we're going to continue to do it. Judith is in day 2 of her juice cleansing. She's 22 days is her deal, her contract of 22 days. Mine is 30. And so I am in tomorrow be day 12. So we can't wait. Someone said, just watch your live from yesterday on Forbidden Knowledge, and I'm a little late, but can't wait to rewatch tomorrow. Thank you, Charlie. Welcome home, I would say. 9 yet out of 10 was great. Thank you. All right, 9 out of 10. All right, we'll take that. Yeah, 9 out of 10 is not a bad number. Appreciate your spirituality, but you ain't alone. Thank you. All right, so with that being said, I love you. If you haven't been loved tonight or have been told today, you're hearing it right now, and whatever you do, just come always to the end of the show, and so you can hear that you're loved. And I love you. I love each and every one of you. And to my haters, if you can hate me and you don't even know me, I can still love you. I may not want to meet you, but I can still love you. And if you're a hater consistently hating on me, then you're not hating on me. You're just a fan, and you're critical. And it's okay to be critical, because that's how we learn as well. But either way, give someone a hug. Tell someone you love them. You heard it from me. And if you need the hug, just picture yourself right here. Only thing missing is you. And I give you a hug. And if you're one of the fellas, let's give some daps. Only thing missing is you. All right. Good night, y'all. We will see you tomorrow, 8 o'clock.
UFOs.
UAPs.
Unidentified anomalous phenomena.
Unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Who are they? Where are they from? And what is their intent?
All questions that immediately come to mind with the mention of UFOs. A Pentagon report is detailing a dramatic increase in UFO sightings, more than 350 since 2021. Many of them are explained as being drones, birds, or weather events, but about half of them remain unexplained.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the SA.
My gosh.
They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude.
This video taken by the Navy showing what he describes as pyramid-shaped UFOs flying over the USS Russell off the San Diego coast in July of 2019. The Pentagon has since confirmed that the video is authentic.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection. Late this afternoon, a bulletin from New Mexico suggested that the widely publicized mystery of the flying saucers may soon be solved. Army Air Force officers reported that one of the strange discs had been found and inspected sometime last week. Our correspondents in Los Angeles and Chicago have been in contact with Army officials endeavoring to obtain all possible late information. Joe Wilson reports to us now from Chicago. The Army may be getting to the bottom of all this talk about the so-called flying saucers. As a matter of fact, the 509th Atomic Bomb Group headquarters at Roswell, New Mexico, reports that it has received one of the discs which landed on a ranch outside Roswell. The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico, and the rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil is the man who discovered the saucer.
There's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are.
More people are coming forward with their own sightings.
Videos recorded by U.S. Navy personnel have added a new layer of evidence to the current national debate about UFOs.
Right at that moment, I saw what looked like 5 lights flying in formation in kind of an inverted check mark.
The NASA independent study team did not find any evidence that UAP have an extraterrestrial origin. We don't know what these UAP are.
The mysterious flying objects are still a mystery. NASA will continue investigating them and has appointed a director of UAP research.
Technology that we faced was far superior than anything that we had.
Look at the fly!